This week on Mounting the Tanks.
Get my balance.
As always, there's some losses in van building,
Oh man, that's uncomfortable.
but wins too.
Fit.
It is or isn't?
It is. Looks like
Oh.
it is.
Thank goodness.
So what I've got here is our freshwater tank. So this was made by Atlas Tanks and custom designed by me. So in order to fit this underneath the Sprinter, I had to completely cut out the spare tyre carrier. It's less than ideal, but realistically, to maximize storage inside the van, the best place to put your water tanks is underneath. Now, Atlas already make a perfectly sized freshwater or grey water tank, either 85 litres or 110 litres, that mounts just behind the driver's seat underneath the van. They do make a stock standard one that goes sort of in front of the tyre carrier, but I wanted to maximise the storage. So this particular water tank's about roughly 50 litres more than what their stock standard sort of tyre carrier one is. So this was designed basically to maximize the undervan space, stay away from the exhaust, don't go too close, sorry, or the bright lights reflecting off the tank. So if you look from the side, as you can see, because the extended wheelbase sort of overhangs so much at the back, I was really worried about the tank scraping on the ground, especially driveways and stuff. So I've designed it with a little bit of a slant at the back. So this is the very back of the tank and it goes up like that, just to get a little bit more ground clearance. So let me tell you, it's an absolute nightmare designing these things, but that's basically it. So it's an L shape, and this is the side opposite to the exhaust. And this goes up towards the front of the van. Now the reason why I went with Atlas, I've actually had water tanks built with them before. These things are solid, very thick, at least 10 to 12 millimeter plastic. I think it's HDPE, or it's basically the food grade plastic. And they also make all the ports for you as well. There's one here, this is the inlet port, breather port, and I've got the outlet somewhere on the other side here. So they'll thread all the ports for you, so it's easy to just screw in a barb. I've also got the Cimarine tank sender at the top as well. So for our battery monitor, we went with the Cimarine. Basically, it looks stunning, and it's got a lot of attachments like an inclinometer, tanks senders or gauges, and of course batteries and an active shunt that will measure 4 devices and their power usage throughout the van. So it's really handy, but I'll talk a bit about that later on. All right, so this is our tyre carrier. When the spare tyre's in, that just sits up and clips onto these hooks. But unfortunately, to get our freshwater tank in, I have to completely cut this out of the van. All right, so we've just removed the spare tyre from underneath the van. It does seem like quite a shame to have to pull it out and cut all that out, because it's actually a really good system for storing your spare tyre. It's out of the way, doesn't compromise the space in the van, and it's actually really easy to get out. There's just 2 bolts here with the tools up in front underneath the passenger seat footbox. So as much as I love this system, I'm about to completely cut it all out. This spare tyre eventually is going to go on this back door. On the outside, we're getting a tyre carrier, because unfortunately, where the spare tyre sits underneath the van is the largest space without any sort of van components underneath it. All right, so this is the part that we're going to cut off the van, and I'm just basically going to shear it straight about here, and then I'll coat it in primer and then enamel just to protect it. Remember, any cuts you make into the van always spray them with a rust protector or a good quality paint. So we're just going to shear these straight off, and that way the freshwater tank will be able to sit in this whole entire cavity here. Oh, it feels like it set my beard on fire. Might do my button up. Oh man, that's uncomfortable. I just got hot sparks flying everywhere under my beard, my chin. Alright, that's one off. Alright, that's the side. Alright.
Push down.
Looks like it's gonna fit.
It is or isn't?
Looks like
Oh.
it is.
Thank goodness.
So I won't know until it's lifted up, so do you want to give me a hand?
Yeah.
You're probably gonna have to
Get under it.
get under it. About there. Hold on, let me get, alright. Doing it like that.
This way?
No, that way. Alright. I'm happy with that. So, a little bit cramped, a little bit difficult, but I've got the water tank almost ready to mount. So you might not be able to see it on camera, but I've got a bit of strapping. So 3mm flat bar, steel flat bar, secured to all thread. So that hopefully will hold here, and then I've got another all thread ready to go. So I've already got the strap in on this side, and hopefully it's a matter of just lifting the tank up into that and then lifting the rear and putting the strap on the back. So far I've only got 2 straps ready to go, but I'll probably end up putting another one on later on, just when I see how the tank goes in terms of weight. This is definitely one of those jobs it's easier done with 2 people. But at the moment, Kiri's at work, and I really need to get this freshwater tank mounted so we can start with the floor. So I'll have to make do. So what I've got is I've got this all thread here that's bolted into various points underneath the chassis. I'm using nylon lock nuts. This is really important. Don't use normal nuts. You want nylock nuts. And the reason for that is over time, being underneath the van, these can non-nylon, non-lock nuts can easily shake loose. And you don't want that. Especially when you've got at least 150 kilo water tank holding it up. So I've already got one of the straps up and on. And I've just lifted the tank to get the sort of front end up on there. Now the hard bit. I've got to lift this tank up, which probably weighs at least 20 kilos by itself. I've got to lift this tank up and then get the strapping on the rear. Once the strapping's on, I can just use the motion of the nuts to raise the tank. And then hopefully it'll sit nice and flush and everything will fit just the way it's intended. But this is the hard part. This tank is not light and it's hard lifting such heavy stuff up over your head. Alright. See how we go. Now it's probably overkill, but it's a really big ant right near my face. It's probably overkill, but I like to be on the safe side rather than the sorry side. So what I'm doing is I'm using nylock nuts, but I'm also putting Loctite on the thread. Just because I don't want any chance of this coming loose. All right, we have a water tank. Now it's just a matter of tightening these nuts, raising the tank up flush against the chassis, and Bob's your auntie.
It's the coldest hand that run down this land.
So I finally got our freshwater tank off the ground. We've got the 2 straps here. Realistically, these alone should be enough to hold the water tank up, but I am going to probably put a 3rd strap either along the middle or from north to south, long ways along the tank, just for a bit of better weight distribution. Now, I've got the tank up off the ground and it's in the strapping, but now comes the tedious job of winding all of these nuts up to lift the tank up into the proper position up against the floor. So yeah, it's not a fun job, and your arms get pretty sore being above your head for so long. But I'm glad I got the tank up off the ground by myself. Let me tell you, that was not easy to do. So now it's just a matter of just winding every nut up.
Where the ocean lands, it's the tallest sound, the damn smallest crowd, but their hearts break loud